Okay, what do you want, Dad, on your tombstone?
Just sweetly resting.
Mama, are you ready for this? Daddy's home. Your daddy's home. I'm going to pull a Joe Biden because I got quite a bit of stuff to say, and I'm going to cover the work history and the R&R history and just what about Dad? What was Dad? But thanks all for coming to pay your last respects to Dad. We lost our dear sister, Bud, 2 months ago. We do not understand. This we understand. We rejoice that Dad has been relieved from his anguish and pain, particularly the last 2 years. Mama said 2 years ago at the villa, maybe he can go soon. But it turned out to be the other way around. Even though I think this was a great idea, this short motorcycle trip was not my idea. Shortly after Mom and Dad moved in with us 3 years ago to the day of Dad's passing, and in December of 2018, we were watching the George Bush funeral procession with trains and hearse and this and that and every other thing. And Dad said, I want to go to the cemetery by motorcycle. Be careful what you wish for. Like I said, I'll cruise through Dad's working career, his activities in his retirement. And who was this guy? After Mom and Dad got married in 1946, I think his first job was working on Reverend Isaac Friesen's farm in Winkler. He took a liking to farming and said, I'm going to get me one of those. The mistake was he bought a quarter section from Carmen Alder in Mather, immediately north of the 49th parallel, without doing any soils tests. When he moved there, he found out he couldn't even grow Russian thistle on that land. To make ends meet, though, Dad did custom baling. The little rectangular ones, not those huge Nabisco things you see nowadays. The game changer was a twister that lifted our barn off its foundation and airmailed it to the United States in 1956. Dad wasn't really mad or crazy upset. He just said, okay, Lord, like that didn't work out so good. What now? I believe it was Frank Clausen, whose mother used to come to our Berteller Church in a beautiful 1939 coupe, who lined Dad up with Penner Motors as a mechanic, and we drove by there today. After a couple of years, he moved to J.R. Friesen and Sons, also drove by there today, and kept on mechanicking. Punching a time clock was really not his cup of tea, so he started his own excavation company. What none of us, especially Mother, could believe was that in the mid-60s or so, Dad started to cook. He became a Queen Anne distributor, selling what we thought were pots and pans. But he always corrected us, saying it was kitchen jewelry. No argument there. As a wedding present, every kid got a complete set from the 1 quart to the 8 quart. And you saw it on display today. Laura had it on a table. And we all got to know what he was saying. In fact, cleaning out, they also had rental homes in Winnipeg, about 10 or 12. Cleaning out one of his garages on Pritchard, I found a 1969 $35,000 club trophy. But directly below on the little bronze placket, it actually says William A. Friesen, $41,169. Like, can anybody believe Dad was that good a salesman? It's written. He finished his working career as a superintendent with WW Construction. My favorite memory from that experience was Dad being asked, how many people do you need to complete that certain task? And he said, give me 3 guys or a 1 Mennonite. Because he was not one to twiddle his thumbs, he did odd jobs for Harry for quite a few years after that. Enough about work. I'll talk about his R&R. I'm really thankful that Dad had the health and the desire for about 20 years, from say 65 to 85, to busy himself with activities he could do with the kids and grandkids, as Robin already alluded to. Nothing made him happier. And trust me, Robin, we have pictures with you in that first fish you caught with Grandpa. There was rollerblading, skating, skiing, fishing, going to Jets games. Randy Carlisle, number 8, was his favorite player. Before I could play slow pitch with the Kildonan Flashbacks, I had to turn 60, but every single game from the first pitch, Dad was in 7th heaven. I think I still have one of his bats. This guy here, big, heavy thing. I can hardly lift it. Crazy. Just another word about skiing, though. He knew when to kiss it goodbye. Dad would ski anywhere. Many trips to Banff were good, but he didn't care where the hill was. Could be Burrs Hill, Kenora, Larivere, just as long as somebody would join him. 10-ish years ago, at 85, when skiing at the beautiful Manitoba Hill at Larivere, Harry saw Dad inside the chalet. He told Harry and Sherry, "I don't think my knees can do this anymore." At about the same time, he said, this Harley, and this Harley is the one I was driving today, he said, "This Harley is too big for me." Again, at about the same time, he avoided an accident, like somebody was trying to hit him, by careening his van into a snowbank. The police said, "You did pretty good." Dad said didn't feel pretty good and gave up his license. On a number of fronts, Dad knew when to say uncle. Dad also loved traveling. Mom and Dad went to Paraguay, I think, 4 times to visit relatives. In 2000, he went with me, and in 2014 with Laura and Ed to see his brother Ben and brother-in-law Willie Kaler. Dad went to Africa with me in 1996, and then in summer we picked up Uncle George in Edmonton and took our gold wings north to Alaska. And I know Harry doesn't. My gold wing covered. And Harry thinks this is like swearing, but it got Dad all the way to Alaska, just a little southeast of Nome. I needed to come home from Anchorage just because Helen's mama had a celebration, but Dad and Uncle George continued on taking a ferry from Skagway to Prince Rupert. About who he was. For decades, Dad was a great provider for his family. From the shack that came with the 40 acres Dad bought in 1958 in East Steinbach, he built us a new home that survived until last year when the Steinbach Fire Department burnt it to the ground. It happened to be the first 2x6 house in Canada, not because of code or an understanding of insulation, but because pristine Douglas fir 2x6s is what Dad found in the Haldimand Church on Main Street that he bought for salvage at the site where we drove by today, where you now buy your A&W Teen Burgers. We also drove by Goosen today. That was the first place that Dad owned a tiny little house in around 1960. He was very innovative. I noticed this in Mom's family, the Taves family, very innovative. So I can't say it was hereditary, like Uncle Ed and Uncle Ben and Uncle Jake and Henry. Uncle Abe was innovative in different ways. He didn't like welding, and he didn't like putting big truck pistons into motorcycles, like Uncle Ben. Mom and Dad, in addition to being great providers for his family, he always found time, space, and money to help the less fortunate. Mom and Dad in 1960 adopted or fostered a young girl, Chaisukwai. She was either from the Philippines or China. They went to Matheson Island, I think, with Ed and Laura to do some building and preaching there. And after building our new house in East Steinbeck in the early 60s, and hearing people's houses were being blown away in a hurricane in the British Honduras, Dad packed up a bunch of cordless tools and went to help. His last major venture, orchestrated by Harry and his daughters, involved begging people for stuff that he could sell at a Mennonite Museum lawn auction sale to help fund the Machanga project in Mozambique, Africa, to build a girls' dormitory. Stu will attest that I bought most of this stuff. About a decade ago, and Harry already talked about it, we noticed Dad's cognitive comprehension was in decline. At first we kind of joked about it, like when he went to Safeway to return a bundle of pink insulation, and the people, they were very nice at Safeway, and very gentle, and said, "Sir, we no longer handle that product." Or Sherry called Harry and said, "Grandpa has parked his van backwards in the drive-thru at the Steinbeck Credit Union. Nobody can get through because Dad has gone inside." After visiting Mom and Dad for the last 2 years at Tuxedo Villa, we have seen the halls filled with elderly without a meaningful future. We thank the Villa for the army of patient caregivers for Mom and Dad. And I know that medical records probably should be kept private, but I don't think Dad would mind sharing that he started taking Voltaren in 2015. How do I know? It's in the Bible. The one you saw today on display. And I think it's also in Psalm 23. That's where he had started taking Voltaren in 2015. Plus many other notes. Took plywood sheets back to McMunn Yates. It was a lot of interesting inserts. To this last year, Dad loved playing his harmonica, and he loved singing and listening to gospel songs. And I'm going to ask Eddie a little later, because my guitar is not tuned, to help me with a song, Life's Railway to Heaven. Thanks for coming.